Barney, congratulations to Bain & Co. for being ranked number one in this year's CMI Glassdoor Top 20 for Culture and Leadership.
Thank you very much.
What are the core values of your organisation and how do you put them into practice in your working life?
From our mission. And our mission is one of looking to drive, with our clients, supporting our clients, to drive meaningful and sustainable results over time and working with our clients to achieve that. And if we're going to achieve that, then we have to have two things in place. One, a set of clients that are looking to drive change and have impact in their businesses. And secondly, a set of extraordinary teams in our business that are able to bring about such results. And so that leads us to really think about how we invest on both of those dimensions to set ourselves up to be able to deliver that mission. And so we disproportionately invest in our people because we have to build extraordinary teams that can bring about those kinds of results that we're looking to achieve.
Right.
That sets up, I guess, a set of operating principles or values in our business, which at the simplest level, I guess, can be described as a passion and a desire for bringing about results. Requiring people to have energy, requiring individuals to want to both be able to identify problems but bring solutions to those problems. But also for us to work together in a great way in teams to be able to deliver change.
I was going to ask you about teams and structure. I mean, How would you describe the structure of the organisation? There are lots of very flat organisations and self-autonomous organisations now. What would you describe the structure of Bain & Company?
Oh, I mean, we think of ourselves as a business that is composed of actually a collection of extraordinary teams. The team unit is really a sort of defining unit at Bain for bringing about impact. We work in teams with our clients, relatively small teams actually. Typically composed of a partner, or a project manager, maybe 4 or 5 consultants. And those teams rotate over time. But that's the unit of delivery with our clients. And then across the rest of Bain, we look to build extraordinary teams again to support our client-facing teams. So be that our finance team, or our talent management team, or our marketing team, all of them are also looking to drive results, have impact, both in support of our clients, but also internally.
Great. How does your employer brand give you a competitive advantage when you're recruiting and retaining staff?
Well, I think our brand obviously, in terms of what it's like to work at Bain and what we're about and our mission, it is very evident to recruits, and indeed, we've been fortunate enough to win various awards for what it's like to work at Bain & Company. And so that obviously helps us when it comes to recruiting great individuals. But we also have to ensure that talented individuals, as they join Bain, want to stay at Bain. And we have to ensure that we are providing an experience at Bain such that people are excited and want to stay, and they have career opportunities to progress and develop and learn, and that we provide a career proposition to them that ensures that not only do we find exciting, talented individuals that want to join, but that they progress through.
And how do you measure the performance of that employer brand on an ongoing basis?
There's a couple of ways in which we, I guess, think about measuring our commitment to delivering on that promise. On the one hand, we have, as many businesses do, various mechanisms for collecting feedback from all of our employees across the entire business on the proposition of working at Bain, the experience of working at Bain, the things that we could do better to improve at Bain. And we invest an awful lot of time, actually, in understanding that feedback and thinking about what we can do to continuously improve. And in fact, one of our core values at Bain is a sort of sense of dissatisfaction with the status quo. We use that with our clients in order to energize ourselves, to help them drive change, but also it's so core to our DNA that it forces us to think continuously at Bain about what we can do to improve. And so with that insight that we're collecting, that feedback that we're collecting, we can begin to design and think about improvements that we will make to our business and measure whether or not tangibly that is delivering a better experience for people through various metrics that we can track, and whether or not we are making progress against our intent.
Great. The senior management and leadership at the firm, why do you think that's rated so highly? Because obviously that's an element of this particular CMI Glassdoor ranking. Why do you think the senior management and leadership of your organisation is rated so highly?
I think it probably begins with the fact that we are an apprenticeship business. And as a result of that, we have senior leaders in the firm who have, albeit pretty rapidly, progressed through the firm and actually understand the various roles that we have in our business. And that means that individuals in our firm can relate very directly to the senior leaders that they're working with. They can project themselves into those roles. It also means that senior leaders in the business can identify with the more, not want to use a different pejorative phrase, but the more junior members of the team, and actually understand the roles that they are playing, and therefore be valuable to them in providing feedback, coaching, development. And if you couple that with a very strong value in our business, which is a desire to do the right thing, a desire to do the right thing with our clients, a desire to do the right thing with our people. And when you see senior leaders taking decisions that are clear manifestations of that value, it builds trust and it builds alignment and belief in the senior leadership team.
Yeah.
I guess the final thing I would say is we're committed as leaders in the business to continuously be soliciting and acting on feedback. So within those team units that I described earlier, across the office as a whole, we collect feedback, and individuals in the firm see leaders either at a team level or an office level acting on that feedback and driving change. Yeah. And I think that builds trust and strong relationships.
Great stuff. You've described elements of this in what you've said already, but can you give us a feel for the distinctive nature of the culture at Bain?
Yes.
Bring us in for a few minutes into the culture and spirit of the organisation.
I think it's probably two things that are special about Bain. One is this, I don't know if it's fully unique, but it feels pretty special, combination of a passion to drive impact and results with a passion for looking after people in the business. And those two things working together hand in glove, recognition actually that only by looking after the people in our business can we deliver the kind of results over the long term that we want to with our clients. It's by delivering those two things in parallel, concurrently together, that we create a pretty special culture. And we then act on that to ensure that we are evaluating and thinking about the experiences of working at Bain such that we're delivering up against that aspiration. So we have a framework for thinking about what makes a great experience of working at Bain. And be this with our consulting teams or our teams that are in support of the business, the same framework applies. It's a framework that requires teams to self-assess against whether or not they're driving impact and having a result. It's a framework which asks teams to self-assess are learning and development opportunities being provided? Is the coaching being delivered that enables people to progress against those opportunities? Are roles being structured such that the professional development opportunities that people are seeking and being provided with match what is right for them? It's a framework which throws up a self-assessment against whether or not we're working sustainably.
Right.
We're a premium client services business, and this commitment to deliver for our clients, to do whatever it takes, frankly, to support our clients, can push the boundaries on sustainability. And so we spend a lot of time and energy trying to think about how we can ensure that people are working in a sustainable way and have lives that allow for both work and their personal lives.
Yes.
And then just to complete that way of thinking, the fourth dimension is, we want teams to be working in a way and to self-assess on this again, that is personal, connected, empathetic, inspirational, junior members inspiring senior members inspiring junior members. And that all therefore comes together as a way of thinking about, are we actually delivering this proposition and delivering against our mission in the way that we want?
Brilliant. You mentioned junior members inspiring senior members, which is a great way of thinking about it. I wanted to take you into the recruitment process. When you're recruiting, what do you look for in a candidate? What behaviours and values?
Yeah, if we put to one side for the moment that there's always clearly a set of skills that one is looking to assess against for different types of roles, I do think there are a common set of, behaviours and values that we look for in all of the people that come to Bain. One is this passion, I've mentioned it many times now, but this passion for having impact, a desire to try to bring about change, kind of proactive appetite for delivering this. That's number one. Number two is about bringing energy to others. I don't mean necessarily being energetic, bouncing off the walls, but the ability to energize either clients or others within Bain internally through how you connect, how you empathize, how you listen, how you engage, how you use humor. That degree of bringing energy is a critical element, I think, of what we look for in a Bain person. And then the third thing is that we are looking for people who have a desire to develop themselves, and actually the humility to recognize that we've never finished that journey of growth, professional development. There's always things that one can learn, there's always things that one can get better at. And if you bring that desire and appetite coupled with humility into how one approaches one's job, you're going to progress, you're going to learn, you're going to develop, and that supports our talent model.
Interesting, very interesting. And presumably that humility, as well as those other behaviours and values that you look for in candidates, those are integral to how the leadership team here maintains trust within the organisation, because as we know, there's diminishing trust in authority all around the world, it seems. Can you talk a little bit about how you and the senior leadership team do maintain trust in what you're doing, your decisions, your vision for the future?
Yeah. I think there's a few things that one can do to just ensure that you have trust in an organisation. One is do one's best, frankly, to be as transparent about decisions that are being taken, actions that are on the agenda, progress that is being made, problems as they're being identified. And the more transparency that you can create around that, the more dialogue you can create. Again, be this either at a team level or at an office level, the more you set the basis upon which leadership team can be judged. And if you then follow through and act on the things that you want to get better at, because they're either things that are your strengths but you want to move forwards on, or actually they've been identified as issues that you want to address. But if you show progress against them, if you show follow through, then again you create a connected, bonded relationship. And I think if you throw onto that, in addition, that again, building on this idea of humility, a leadership team can't solve everything. That actually an organisation as a whole has to work together to bring about impact, again, either at a team level or at an office level. And it's that working together rather than working in silos that brings about the most amount of change and benefits. And that way you create not only trust in what you're trying to achieve, but a way of working that is cohesive and to some extent, ignores hierarchy and relative experience. We're all in this together.
Do you encourage your people to be advocates for the organisation, and how does that work?
I think advocacy happens organically.
Okay.
I think advocacy happens as a consequence of probably two things. One, obviously you have to have the starting point, which is good experiences, things for people to advocate about. And secondly, I think if you have positive, energetic people that want to connect with others, you put those two things together and you have advocacy. And it comes about as a consequence of that. I'm not entirely convinced that you can encourage advocacy in an empty way. There certainly aren't actions that we take specifically to say to people, please could you advocate Bain? It's a more spontaneous, organic thing than that.
Yeah. Can I ask you about the hiring process and making sure that you're hiring managers, those who are making decisions about candidates, remain true in their decision making and in their processes to the employer brand which you've described when they recruit new people?
So, again, to deliver against that mission that I talked about, we have to have fantastic people at Bain, and we have to recruit fantastic people, and that requires us to have what we hope and believe is a world-class recruiting process. The way that we deliver that process actually is to bring in all people from across the organisation to be part of that process. And so the experience that candidates have and the assessment and evaluation process that we go through actually requires 70-80% of our organisation to be involved in recruiting. There's so many candidates that we see. It is so important to us that we will invest that commitment to ensure that we are doing a great job. And if you are operating in that way, then a couple of things happen. Number one, actually the candidates themselves experience Bain because they are meeting so many individuals across Bain that frankly they are meeting kind of the manifestation of your brand, because that ultimately is your people. And there's no gatekeeping going on through a sort of a hiring manager maybe that is shutting off avenues. You are experiencing a very broad cross-section. You're also getting both the positive and the unvarnished truth around what it's like to work at Bain, because you're meeting so many different people, all of whom have their own experiences, all of whom will talk about Bain in their own way, and the candidate themselves can see the similarities and can understand the differences and form a view, actually, of what it's like to work at Bain. Because really there are two things that are going on in a recruiting process. Actually, we are assessing the candidate, but the candidate is assessing us. Yeah. And the best way to ensure that we end up with a great outcome is not only to go through a great process where obviously we evaluate the candidate, but that they evaluate us. And so that when they come to join us, they're excited about joining Bain. They understand that Bain is a great fit for them. And therefore, by definition, they're already in the place where they want to succeed, they want to stay, they want to progress, which only helps for the longer term.
Yeah. Final question. Engagement. You've brought these great people in. They've come in a way where they understand the culture. You understand them. They've had a big experience of a number of people through the recruitment process. Keeping your people engaged. It's one of the hottest subjects in business right now. Making sure that everyone is performing to their best for as much of the time as you possibly can, that can be possible. Can you talk to us a little bit about ensuring optimal employee engagement and any steps that you might take if engagement inevitably dips?
There's probably two types of engagement that we would want all of our people at Bain to be thinking about. There's an engagement actually in thinking about themselves and thinking about how they can add value to our clients or internally in our business, and how they can be developing themselves to progress. And we ensure that level of engagement, frankly, through both a culture and way of working that ensures very, very regular feedback, coaching, both informally along the way, and also at formal review points at the end of projects, halfway through the year, such that people have a very good understanding of their development, how they're doing, what their next set of needs are that they need to think about in order to support their career progression. And that ensures for a very high level of engagement just in progressing oneself. Second level of engagement obviously is that in the business as a whole. And again, I think we can enable that through transparency about our business and sharing a lot about how our business works and how our business is performing, things that we need to work on. And also by encouraging engagement in what we can do better. And I mentioned earlier the various mechanisms that we have to solicit feedback and then create programs and plans co-created that can allow us to act on the feedback that our employees are giving us in order to continue to try to make Bain a great place to work.
One final thing, I said it was the last thing, but final thing. Satisfaction with the leadership, both your direct team leader maybe,
Yes.
or the senior leadership in the firm. What do you do to make sure that that stays high? And if it isn't high, what kind of steps can you take, or what do you encourage people to do if they are in any way dissatisfied with the leadership that they're receiving?
Well, we have mechanisms for tracking employees' feelings about both their direct leadership team that they are working with and the office as a whole. And we solicit both informal and formal feedback. And we can calibrate that feedback. And there's two elements really in that feedback that we then use. One is, I guess, you would describe it as qualitative feedback, the feedback that allows both an individual and the office to understand what they can do differently. And then there's elements of quantitative feedback, actually hard metrics, that tell us both for individuals and for the office as a whole where we are. And ultimately, actually, we link that to incentives and career progression. And so there is attention to that as far as our senior leadership teams are concerned, and commitment as a business and with individuals to act.
Great. Barney, thank you very much for your
you.
time. Great to talk to you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.